This video is going to show you how to run a cross tabulation or create a bivariate table in SPSS. I will be using the GSS 2006 dataset to do this. We are going to start by creating a bivariate table using two variables, both of which are ordinal. Let's look at the relationship between educational attainment and beliefs about the importance that results in research are consistent with one's religious beliefs for making research scientific. So when you create a cross tabulation, you're going to go to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, and go down to the crosstabs option. The first variable that we want is educational attainment, and we want to make sure we use the variable degree because that is the ordinal level of measurement for education. And we're going to place that variable in the columns box. The second variable we want that indicates the beliefs about importance of results in research being consistent with religious beliefs for making research scientific is SciImp5. So we're going to go to SciImp5, SCIIMP5, and we're going to place that variable in the rows box because it's our dependent variable. So we're using education to predict beliefs about science. Then you're going to go to your cells box on the right hand side of the first dialog box and go down to where the percentages option is and click on the column box. There should be a little check mark indicating you've selected it. Click continue and then click paste. And then you can run your syntax by highlighting it and clicking run. Okay, we're going to make that a little bit bigger. So here you can see that there are 1,775 respondents that the analysis is based on. 2,735 individuals are marked as missing, and that's because individuals may have only answered one question or the other, but not both. And so if you didn't answer both questions, you are thrown out of this particular analysis. Okay, so if you look across the top, you can see the different values for degree. Less than high school, that's an LT, less than high school. High school is the highest degree. Junior college is one's highest degree. Bachelor degree, graduate degree. And then these are the totals. And this arrangement for the dependent variable, how important it is that results are consistent with one's religious beliefs in science, are organized in a way that might seem backwards. So normally we might put not important at the top, but we have very important, pretty important, not too important, and not important at all. So if you were setting it up by hand, you'd probably make it go the other way, but we didn't recode the variable, so that's okay. So what we want to do is we want to see if our independent variable nicely predicts our dependent variable. Maybe you have a hypothesis about the relationship between these two variables. Think about what your hypothesis would have been. Maybe even draw this out as a causal diagram. So perhaps you think that as education level increases, then it becomes less important that results are consistent with religious beliefs. So a negative relationship. As education increases, people think it's less important that religion and science match one another. So what we can do is we can take a look at the percentages and decide if there's a relationship between the independent variable and the dependent variable. So the first thing we want to do is decide if there's a relationship. So we do that by looking across the columns within one row to see if the percentages differ. And you can see that they do in all of these rows. And so there is a relationship. The next thing we want to do is we want to determine the strength of the relationship. And so we would look at all of these percentages and we would decide which one had a maximum difference that was the highest. So In the top row, we would look at 16.2 minus 4.2, and there's a difference of 12%. We would look at the next row and we'd say, okay, 21.8 is the largest, and we'd subtract 5.1, and you would do this for each row until you determined which one had the biggest difference. And it looks like the biggest difference is in that last row, that 65.1%, and you would subtract 29.4%. Okay, so this is where your maximum difference would be. So there is a relationship, it seems pretty strong, and now we want to see what direction it goes in. So as degree goes up, so as your highest degree goes up, what happens to your feelings about whether or not results should be consistent in science with religion? So when we interpret direction, we are looking for the largest percentage in a column, and we're going to do that for each column. So you're going to see 65 in this one, 54.3 here, 37.4, 34, and then 32. And what we're doing is we're trying to see if there's some sort of diagonal line. And there is a little bit of a diagonal line. It's not perfect, but it kind of goes like this and then down like this. But you can see how some of the numbers are a little bit larger in certain places compared to others. So if you have a graduate degree, it's pretty common that you're down here in this particular cell. Then if you have a bachelor's degree, that's a little bit smaller than this one. And so if you go down this row like this, you see that it becomes the case that it's not as common. And so you can sort of see that there seems to be a relationship here. It's not totally ambiguous. It's not a beautiful diagonal line, but it is approaching a pretty nice diagonal line. And that's the nature of data. It's very messy. When you look at real examples like this, it's usually not very easy to find out what's going on, especially when you have a 5x4 table like this. And you just kind of want to pay attention to the patterns that start to emerge. Remember, you make your table percentage by the columns. You can also do it by rows, but you're looking by the columns. So you might want to write a couple of sentences about how there is a relationship, the strength of the relationship seems pretty good, and the direction appears to be negative. As respondents have more education, they seem to think that it's less important that science and religion match one another. So the negative relationship is that as respondents have higher degrees, they are less likely to believe that science and religion need to match one another. You can do this with just nominal variables, and if you do that, then there will not be a direction. You'll just talk about the existence of the relationship and the strength of the relationship.